Okay, today is gonna be a quick reflection day. Basically, I spent the past 2 to 3 hours working on some Japanese practice, and I wanted to give some things I'm picking up back again, like lessons I'm learning. And I think one of them is to start with a good foundation and learn the Japanese alphabet, I suppose, if you want to call it that. It's basically hiragana and katakana. Those are the two main alphabet systems for Japanese. And what I did today was essentially write out the list of hiragana and katakana a lot. Basically over 10 times each, I'd say, probably more. But I was also listening to Pimsleur while doing that, and sometimes when I listen to Pimsleur Japanese 1 and 2, I'm mostly familiar with. I've done them in the past. I guess just to give some background, I've taken Japanese in high school from freshman year to senior year. That was a long time ago, so I've forgotten a lot of it, and I needed to brush up with mostly katakana since my hiragana is still there. But I'll display on screen some of the practice I did today. This was towards the end where I just wrote out the list and in real time, so it's not sped up or anything. I'm trying to basically do it to the point where I don't have to think about it. I just think of what I want to say and then I just write out the characters. I'd say for Japanese, I feel like my voice is kind of hoarse. I talk so much today, and also for Pimsleur, I've been just saying a lot. Did maybe 3 lessons today from Japanese 2, but I'm trying to get up to Japanese 4 before the end of the year, so I'm kind of cramming things. I definitely procrastinated. To give more context, this is so out of order, but to give more context, I'm going to take a test in Japan for a Japanese language school where I get placed into the intermediate or beginner class. I'm trying to get into the intermediate/advanced class. I feel like at this point it's kind of unlikely, but I might as well just try. It's a good goal. It's good motivation to practice Japanese. I have the Genki book, number 1, so I'm gonna just go through that, and after that I'll try to get through Genki 2 as well, basically before the new year. So it's December 5th or 6th today, so that's kind of a crazy timeline, and I'm not sure I can do it, but I do have a lot of prior experience, so maybe I can blaze through it once I get my foundations back again. I basically started, this is my second day of practicing again, writing and everything. So, and I do think writing is very, very useful. I've also used Duolingo for, my streak is 400 something days, and it's only me studying Japanese on it. But honestly, the streak stuff, I basically spend about 5 to 10 minutes a day doing a lesson or 2, and that's it. So it's not very much, although it does help keep the content in my mind a little bit. So it's better than nothing. But personally, I've used Duolingo's hiragana and katakana system to refresh myself, and I don't think it's that effective. I really think the way I learned it in high school was to literally just write out the list, continuously write out the list and think about it, and then after that, think of words, perhaps listen to something like a podcast where Japanese people speak, and then write out what you hear. So basically you're remembering the characters based on not the list, because sometimes if you do the list too much, you're remembering the characters based on spatial reasoning and spatial memory, basically, because you're it's K and then it's A, I, U, E, O, and you're just doing that over and over again. So you don't want to get to that point where it's mostly spatial memory versus actual I know how mu looks like in my head, I can write it out immediately. So it's just, yeah, it's a different sort of point that you reach once you get there. So I guess to summarize my advice, or what I'm relearning, is write out the lists, hiragana first, get to the point where you can listen and then write it out pretty quickly, almost zero thinking required. I think for me, writing out the list, most of my thinking is actually oh, what comes next, K or S or T, which row do I write next? So sometimes I pause a lot for the next row because I'm trying to decide which letter I'm gonna start with. But for the most part, my hiragana, at worst, I need maybe 2 seconds to think of it. For 5% of the list, maybe the words I use the least, or the characters I use the least. For the katakana one, I still need to work on it. I think at least doing it for 3 days will solidify it in my head again. And just as a reminder, I have done this before. It's me refreshing my memory versus me learning it from scratch. So definitely a different experience and different technique. So that is essentially it in terms of the tip. Just writing the list over and over again until you get a feel for it, and then listening and writing it based on that. I will also say for katakana, like there are certain characters that look very similar, and I think writing it out really helps with distinguishing, like for instance, tsu. Tsu looks very similar to, sorry, I have to actually just do this, shi. So tsu looks very similar to shi, but if you write it out, you'll recognize that, I can't invert this, but you'll recognize that one stroke comes from the bottom, the other stroke comes from the top. And based on that, it helps distinguish the two characters. Same with n, basically n and so. So those two are also kind of hard to distinguish sometimes, and basically the way I do it, at least, is that one comes from the bottom and the other one comes from the top. And there's slightly different angles, but the stroke order or the stroke in general just helps with that a lot. And geez, I sound so tired right now, or at least in my own head I sound super tired. But okay, that was pretty much it. Hopefully I'll probably do more highlights of what I'm learning, maybe like a review on the Genki book or something, or the lessons. I'll see. It depends on how much of the day it occupies. For this one, it definitely took a lot of time. After dinner, I just went straight to practicing Japanese for basically 2 to 3 hours. And I expect that to be a consistent thing from here on. Okay, that's it. I'll catch you guys in the next one.